Hello dear farmers and to everyone watching this episode, welcome back to your favorite farming channel, Farming with the CEO. Today I'm in Karatina in Nyeri County and where I met my special guest. Yeah, it is not just a special guest. I have featured him in a previous video where he talked about dairy farming. I'll post that link on the comment section. You can review that video and learn from him because he is still a young person. He is sharing knowledge with the world. And if you are new to this channel, don't forget to click on the subscription. And to those who have already subscribed, thank you so much. We are already at 3,000 subscribers. Let's hit 4,000 subscribers before this month ends. And I officially introduce you to our special guest. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your coffee farm?
Hello guys, my name is Paul and I'm a coffee farmer, a dairy farmer and a pig farmer. On this journey of coffee farming, this coffee is actually was planted way long before by our great-grandparents. What we only did is actually we did grafting so that we can have the Ruiru. And I inherited some of it. Some of this land we actually purchased. And with the same coffee, the only thing we have done is actually improving the quality and actually the management aspect for us to be able to produce more.
What led you to become a passionate coffee farmer?
One thing about coffee farming, I realized where can I get money at a wholesome, whereby I need around 200,000 probably at the end of the year, and yet saving is becoming an issue. That's why we decided for us to actually add value from the manure we get from our cows, we can actually feed the coffee, and at the end of the year, we have a very good projection. We can be able to earn the same amount. Probably wanted to do a project and you needed probably 200,000, 300,000, you can actually get it from there. And the other aspect is management. You don't have to be in the coffee 24/7. You just have to know when a certain management is supposed to be done, and only a single day, and the rest of the month you can actually rest and wait for the harvest.
What are some of the practices that you carry out in your coffee farm so that you can ensure that every season of coffee picking, you have a bumper harvest?
One of the things we have to do is something called scouting. Scouting is whereby we move around the farm to see if there are any challenges that are there, and to see if the nutrition value of that, because we can know actually if a plant is lacking a certain nutrients, we can know by actually checking the leaves or the berries. And by that, we also come and check for the pests and see even the diseases. And the other thing we also do is actually look on the nutrition value by adding even manure and all that. For you to be able to actually maximize on that, scouting is very important so that you can know the needs of that coffee and you can be able to implement on that.
What are some of the things that you ensure that you get quality coffee?
Coffee is by knowing the varieties. There are several varieties actually in Kenya, which include the SL, there is the Ruiru, and there is the Batian. All those three coffees have different characteristics. For example, most of the coffee that we have here is Ruiru and mixed with a little SL. About Ruiru is something you have to know is it's actually resistant to some of these diseases like the CBD and the Reef Rust. But the other thing is, it requires a lot of feeds so that that seed can be able to be very big enough. So by knowing the variety that you actually have in your farm, it will actually tell you, yes, I need to feed probably manure at this stage, I need to do this, I need to do that. And the other factor is, make sure you also check on the various management factors to be able to maximize. Because sometimes there is what we call overbearing in coffee. And overbearing, what that means, you have a lot of seeds and a lot of results this year, but next year you'll have nothing. So make sure you prevent something like that, overbearing part. And if you have the overbearing, make sure the coffee is harvested at the right time so that you can also have time to heal and actually have some other flowers that you can be able to harvest the next season.
What fertilizer do you use, or do you use just manure for your coffee plantations?
Here in this farm, what we do, we only use manure. The only thing we use in terms of fertilizers are the foliars. Like right now, from next week, we'll be doing the foliars that you have in high K for the ripening. But on the ground, we just use manure that we get from chicken, poultry, the poultry part, which is the chickens, pigs, and the cows. And that is what we use. And that's why you can see even the managu are a lot in the farm. But on the foliar, on the other side, we can use actually spray the foliar to actually make sure the berries ripen at the required time and proper harvesting will happen.
What are some of the challenges that you experience as a coffee farmer?
Coffee farmer, one of the biggest challenges that are actually happening is the market fluctuation, which sometimes we are paid very low and in the market, but apart from that, in terms of farming here now, sometimes you have the challenges of some of these diseases, depending on which variety. Mostly the CBD during the cold seasons, and leaf rust during the area from December to January, February. That is one of the things you can actually have challenge on. And the other thing is, some of these fungicides that will help in controlling some of the diseases are very expensive in the market. Meaning, not every farmer can be able to afford to control, and some of these diseases like the CBD can lead even to total losses, whereby your coffee bears very well, but after that cold season, by the end of that cold season, you find yourself you have nothing. All the berries are out, are on the ground, and they are not yet mature. So that is one of the biggest challenge, and the market that is always there. Despite the last year and the few years back, we have been affected by the drought, which actually affected the most part of the country. But from there, the diseases and the market is one of the biggest challenges that we always have.
There are some farmers who say this sometimes, that coffee farming is not profitable. How can you say about that?
Coffee farming is not profitable if you do not do it on the right way. For example, if you only depend on your coffee, probably you depend on fertilizer, and you know the cost of fertilizer was around even 7,000 and above, yet this coffee is supposed to be fed on fertilizer probably 3 to 4 times in a year. That one will actually lead your cost of production very high. But when you decide to go probably semi-organic, because you're actually using some pesticide to control the nini, and you use actually manure, well, you are adding value from your cows, your goats, your sheep, your pigs, and even your poultry. You're adding value from that manure. That means you're reducing the cost of production. The other thing that happens is, one thing, there's a famous thing that unasemanga, you look for money by using the same other coins. You use money to look for money. So you have to invest on that coffee in terms of other resources. But most farmers would think like, okay, it doesn't have money. It means they fail on the management aspect. Hence the productivity is very low. Meaning it cannot take what? It cannot pay back what they invested. So money aspect is very important, and also try and keep the records to know your productivity. And the other factor that will help you to actually reduce your cost is knowing the season and the time and the right time for a certain activity to happen. If it's spraying, let's say you have to spray for the fungicide, have at least know this fungicide is supposed to be sprayed at this time and this time and this time. Most farmers, what they do is they come to the farm to spray when the disease has already spread, which means, yes, you lose that what you call the fungicides or that pesticide, but it's already too late, because fungicides also under the pesticide have various categories. They are preventive and curative. So probably a farmer who doesn't have that knowledge will probably come and have a preventive where the disease has already started spreading, which will be a loss to him. Whereas what is supposed actually to spray is a curative and not a preventive when the disease is already there. And when the disease is not there, you have to spray the preventive fungicides to prevent all that. If you do not know that, you'll end up using those chemicals and having a lot of cost in terms of production, whereas your productivity will be very low. And for that, if you use the correct pesticide, the correct fungicide, the correct farm management, nutrients and all that, you can be able to be making money from it, and very good amount of money. Yes.
What is the size of your land, and how many coffee bushes do you have? In
this land that we have, this land is actually a 3/4 acre. We have 300 bushes on this side, but on the other side we have more than 300. But on our side, as Farm with Paul, we have at least 100. But we also lease. I will list outside around 400 bushes that we actually manage and harvest.
Yeah. And how many? Can you approximate how many kgs do you per bush, or the total?
From this land we are in, last year we were able to achieve 12 kgs per bush, and this year we are targeting more than 15 kg per bush. And what I mean by per bush is like this bush should produce more than 15 kgs. So if you have 300 bushes and you can actually a minimum of 15 kgs per bush, you can count that and see how many kgs you are expecting to have.
It is almost around 3,600.
Yes, around there.
Why are you investing a lot on coffee instead of even other farm activities?
Okay, I'm investing in coffee because I see the value in it. And on the other hand is, if you look on the world data, coffee is the second most consumed
Product.
product. You can just do your research. You'll see coffee is the second highest consumed product, meaning it has a wide market. The only problem we have is how the market in Kenya is actually working. But if it becomes better, coffee is something that can be sustainable in a household for a very long time. Meaning, if you do your coffee properly, you have those 300 bushes, and we are able to achieve even 20 kgs per bush. If I have my 300 bushes and I'll be able to achieve at least a minimum of 20 kgs, that means by the end of the year, I'll have at least 6,000 kgs. If that 6,000, we are paid at a minimum of 100 shillings. How much are we having? We're having almost 600,000. In the 600,000, these 300 bushes cannot even take more than 100,000. Meaning, the rest you can either invest in other businesses. You can actually be depending on that. Probably you're a family, you're a father, a mother, or a parent, you're actually paying school fees. You can actually have that. But by that, we see it's something that can actually be developed and have more income in a society. And the other thing, if you check, look for in areas whereby they do not have a catch crop. Like for us here, we have coffee. What happens is, for people who have coffee, they are able to do some projects, even if it's in a village setup, whereby you see at the end of the year, after the coffee money is paid, you can see people coming up with cow sheds. Somebody is actually constructing a house. Reason because this money, they are able to actually put that money together. And at the end of the year, you have something which you can actually invest in something else. So you can actually use coffee to actually develop other businesses as a source of capital. Because one thing about this coffee, every day I don't need 100,000 to maintain it. For this, probably I need for pesticide, I only need 1,000 to purchase the pesticide, 500 for the manual labor. And that one is actually probably once or twice in a month. Whereas at the end of the year, all the money that I will get will be put together and I can be able to do something else. So it's not actually, yes, it is capital intensive, but it's not at the same time whereby I can say we need 100,000 right now. You can actually be, probably today you're using 100 bob, tomorrow you're using 500, like that. It's not actually, it doesn't require a lot of capital at once. And by that, it's actually manageable to a lot of people and manageable as a side hustle to some people, and also manageable as to people who actually do it as a full-time job.
You have mentioned about that you are targeting 15 kgs per bush this year. What are the advancements that you are carrying out so that you can ensure that you hit your target?
One thing we did is we have our own calendar that I took, and I decided from this year, from the previous year we used to do coffee, I just check, okay, it's because it's a rainy season, we do that. It's because it's a dry season, we do this. But this time we decided to come up with a farm calendar only about coffee. We know if it's January, what are we supposed to be controlling? If it's on February, what are we supposed to be spraying? If it's on March, like that, a whole year. Whereby to take caution of the various diseases, pests, and all that. And also ensured we also take part in terms of productivity of that coffee. For example, in December, January, we used to spray what we call the zinc and the boron, which actually help in the flowering stage. And after that, we realized, yes, the flowers have already emerged. After that, we tried and control the pests that actually affect those flowers to reduce the loss. And after production, when the flowers matured to some few small berries, we controlled the CBD at that stage and also controlled pests that actually reduce on that. So we took all the measures possible to be able to reduce any other diseases or pests that can reduce our productivity and the sizes of our berries.
What do you enjoy most about being a coffee farmer?
What I enjoy most is about freedom. About freedom. The one thing I enjoy about coffee farming is the freedom we have. Because right now we are here, but telling you that apart from this week, we will just be doing wedding. All the other times we won't be here in the coffee. You'll just have to come one day and check for scouting, and probably another activity will take in 2 months or that. The only intensive work that we do is during harvesting, whereby we have people in the farm probably at least 2 times a week, and from there, all the other time, you can actually be living in Nairobi and your coffee is actually still doing very well. You can actually take a vacation and still come back and find your coffee very well, as long as you know the management factors. You don't have, it's not like a cow whereby we have to feed in the morning, we have to feed in the evening, we have to milk, we have to do all that. Here, invest, know what you're investing in, know the requirements, and you can even do what you call the telephone farming comfortably and be able to produce.
In the past few years, as a country, we have experienced a fluctuation in the cost of the price of coffee, and most of the farmers walikuwa wamefika mahali that they are giving up on coffee farming. But in the current government, we are seeing that the government is encouraging more farmers to engage into coffee farming and other farming activities. What advice could you give to a farmer who alikuwa amefika mahali and had decided that I won't continue with coffee farming?
You know, one thing, before you decide you are quitting coffee farming, before you decide I'm actually going to approve that coffee farming, make sure first of all you are doing things right. Because one thing, when you get most people actually approaching it in a manner, they do not personally know how to actually get the production of that coffee. They do not know how we can get as much berries as what you can see from this coffee. So one thing is, before you quit, make sure you know how can I produce maximally. Because one thing, for those who are quitting, you can get it. Yes, we are paid very low, but on the other side, the production is very low. As in farmers, here in the village, what we say is, kahawa ni kilo. If you don't have the kilos, you don't have the money. And to maintain the kilos is knowing the management. And for a farmer, I will advise, try at least going, even if you are doing a completely synthetic production, try and at least do what we call a semi-organic. Whereby, for example, you can make farmyard manure. Farmyard manure is made, you can make farmyard manure from the leaves, from all those remainings, and have your farmyard manure that will reduce your cost of fertilizer. Right together. So on the other hand, also try some other managements like mulching, even in your coffee, to reduce the cost. Because the issue here is, you're producing your coffee at around 50 shillings. Then the coffee is also paid at around 40 shillings. That's where farmers go wrong. But if you can try and know, okay, I'll try and produce my kg at less than 30 shillings, so that you can even if you get paid at 40 shillings, I'll still making some cash. And that is by reducing what you buy mostly, but okay, invest in what you can be able to get locally, like the farmyard manure. If you have the cows, you can use the cow manure, chicken, all that. And you can be able to actually manage your soil instead of using the commercial fertilizers that are quite costly, because that is whereby the cost comes very high and leads to high cost of production and hence losses to the farmer.
You said that you are facing some of the challenges as a coffee farmer. What are some of the acts that you are doing so that you can be able to overcome the challenges?
One of the things we are doing as a farmer is to ensure we also do proper scouting, because one of the challenges I told you is diseases and pests. And scouting at least once a week. We do scouting at least once a week to make sure that there is no other pest and all that. And we also do what we call classifying or scoring. Mostly we call it scoring, whereby if it's a disease, you look at how many bushes are actually affected. So the score, what we call a scoring is where, okay, if you have 300 bushes and only 2 are affected, it will tell you on the mitigation you are going to take. If am I going to take the pesticide side, or am I going to do, although am I going to do the pesticide, am I going to do the fungicide? And the other thing is, on the scoring side, whereby you do including the pests, you come and see how many pests you have here. You can actually tap that leaf and see how many pests do I have in that leaf. So if I do an average of how many bushes I have, that will tell you at which class of pesticide are you going to use, because even pesticide have classes depending on the strongest and the mild one and the organic one. And for that, or even the cost of those pests is actually different. And the other side we came to realize is, before, when we started this coffee, we used to use a lot of fertilizers. And yeah, I saw it, my aim was, yes, we have the cows, but the manure you are getting, I wanted to sell the manure. Then I came to realize, I'm going to sell a pickup of manure at 3,000 Kenya shillings. How many pickups will I sell? Can I sell in a year? Even if I sell 30 pickups, that is 90,000. What if I preserve that manure? I mix, because here we do mix manure from the cows, pigs, and the chicken. If we use that in the farm, we are getting more compared to selling it. And by that, we are actually reducing the cost of any going back to buy fertilizers. Because one thing is, fertilizers can only take this plant very few months, or even only a single season. Whereas for manure, can take even this coffee around 3 seasons. consequently you harvesting. The only thing you have to do is add a little manure probably once in a year. And the other thing about we realized is most of the soils in this area are quite acidic due to continuous use of these fertilizers. But we realized, yes, we can use manure that can help moderate our soil. And by that is why you can easily see the results that we are getting here. If you are here, I think 4 years ago, you will see a very total different thing. Because at least we wouldn't be having this interview. Because the berries will be very, very scattered and very low. And by realizing that, we reduced the cost of fertilizers. Because cost of fertilizer was taking more than 80,000 per year. Because purchasing, you have to do the top dressing, you have to do fertilizer during the rainy season twice. You have to do during the harvesting season. You have to do soil conditioning in January because you're using the fertilizers and all those. But nowadays, the cost of fertilizers went down to zero and lowered our productive cost. And that is why we can sustainably say we are not uprooting our coffee and it's actually manageable.
Taking agriculture, as we talk about overall agriculture, because you are not just a coffee farmer, you are also a pig farmer, you are a dairy farmer. What's that one word that you can give to the young people?
One thing about agriculture, you have to realize agriculture is a science and an art. And in agriculture, there is a very long value chain. If you are interested, because one thing about agriculture is interest. You have to be interested at the first step. If you're interested probably in coffee farming, just look at where do you fit. For example, I'm in dairy farming. Somebody else is there in the same industry, but is there buying milk from other farmers and adding value. So it doesn't mean, because agriculture, most of the youth think agriculture is just taking a djembe. Surprisingly, my hands are still very clean. I don't take a djembe. But it's by knowing where do you fit in the value chain. Is it in the production side, whereby we are producing the coffee, you're producing the milk from the cows, you're producing pork, or you're producing the eggs? Or is it on production of feed? Somebody else can actually decide, yes, I have cows, but I'm not interested in actually doing coffee. Or I'm not actually interested in doing other crop farming. You can add value to that manure. Properly ferment that manure, decompose it properly, ensure it's well maintained, and even pack it in bags and even sell it to people who are actually having coffee but do not have the cows as the source of manure. The other part is, if you are interested and choose the right path, do a research and have the knowledge in specifically what you want. Because most people make losses because, yes, you just want to invest in this agriculture, but you do not know the how. You invest blindly by not knowing what you're supposed to, the challenges that are there, how to make the mitigation to those challenges, the various aspects of farming, all that. And at the end, before you come to realize, you have already lost a lot to be able, even to be able to revive again. And that way is most people actually get discouraged. But one thing, have the interest, make your good research and what you want, and also finally do your personal business plan that you can be able to follow slowly by slowly and have projections. For example, this year I want to be here and work on them. Not having projections in written, then you just keep it under your bed, but also implement them in real life.
And if you are a farmer who is watching this episode, kindly, and you are willing to share knowledge to other people, kindly invite me to your farm. We feature what you are doing in your farm. You can contact me through this number, 0799 675574. Let's venture into agriculture, because we say farming is the way to go.